anxiety-reducing yoga practice. Great day, good people. My name is Aya-Nikole Cook. I'm a yoga teacher, and I'm also the owner and wellness curator at Haji Healing Salon. I'm in the salon today, although we're closed due to concerns around coronavirus, to offer you an anxiety-reducing yoga practice. If you'd like to join me in this practice, grab a yoga mat, a blanket or a towel that you can use as a prop, and get ready to go inward now. We're going to start by grounding down through the four corners of the feet. To do this, I like to rock the weight forward toward the toes, getting lighter in the heels, and sort of see where the balance is, and then drop the weight back into the heels, getting lighter in the toes, and rock back and forth in this way a few times. From here, you might lift and spread the toes, and then root all 10 toes down to the mat. Invite a sense of grounding down, and you might even imagine here that there are four corners of your feet, and from each corner, an organic root grows down through the floor of your home and into the deep recesses of the earth. Knowing that you're held and connected and supported to Mother Gaia is a great way to offer the experience of grounding in your body. Once you've established groundedness through your feet and a connection with the earth, invite the energy of the earth to move up through the feet, through the legs, allowing them to be energized. Feel lengthening through the legs, a tucking of the tail as you send the heavy tailbone down toward the earth. You'll draw in the belly, lift up the heart, and gently spread it as you roll the shoulder heads back and down. Allow the arms to lengthen at your sides. Stretching the palms open, you'll send the fingertips toward the earth as well. Feel where the head is in space, and allow the chin to be parallel with the floor, gently tucking the chin back and in toward the throat, to initiate what we yogis call Jalandhara Bandha. I invite you to allow your eyes to close, your face to soften, and your teeth to unclench. We'll begin here to look in and feel in on the experience of being in the body today at this time. Allow yourself to be a witness here, knowing that there's nothing to change. We are simply observing what is. When you feel you have a sense of your breath in your body, invite the breath to lengthen and deepen, now drawing full deep inhales in through the nose that help expand you. And let's clear out through the mouth. You're in the comfort of your own home, so you're welcome to invite as audible a release as you need in this time. Big breath in and clear out. One more time, draw in all the breath. And let it go. Now we'll close the lips and invite Ujjayi into our practice. That means we're slightly contracting the muscles of the throat in order to make a raspy or whispering sound with the breath. Move toward your Ujjayi practice now. Let's take 3 or 4 more deep Ujjayi breaths here, while we call to mind a personal and powerful intention for practice. With intention clear in the mind, we'll take a moment to also speak it into the vast energetic heart space. We'll begin our practice today by chanting the sound of Om 3 times. Each time we inhale, We'll lift the arms up and overhead, and as the palms come together, we'll exhale, drawing them down in front of the heart. The 3 Oms each represent the past, the present, and the future. Imagine the first Om is in honor of the ancestors who paved the way for us to be here now. The second Om you might imagine as a blessing for yourself in this now moment. And the third Om seals in intention, ensuring that our intentions will manifest in the very near future. Each time you lift and expand your arms, imagine you're creating a beautiful bubble of protection around yourself. Begin when you feel ready. Inhaling, arms reach overhead. Thumbs up and rest them between the eyebrows, and bow our heads in toward our hearts with so much reverence for ourselves and this practice. Lowering the arms at the sides, let the eyelids float open and see your toes down below. Give them a nice wiggle. Bend your knees a bit, especially if you were locking the knees out in mountain pose. It can be a habit sometimes. Shake your body out if you need to. Good. Let's begin the practice. Ground down through the 4 corners of the feet again. And as you inhale, lift the arms up and overhead, feeling the lengthening of your side waist. When you exhale, hold your right wrist in your left hand and use your next inhale to reach up through that right side and exhale, arcing the body over to the left, any amount. You might turn your face up to gaze past the right armpit and take another deep breath. When you inhale, lengthen and lift. As you exhale, bend the elbows, open the heart space any amount, and gaze skyward. Inhale, 2 arms reach up again. Exhale, hold left wrist and right hand. Inhale for length. Exhale and arch over. Look up past the left armpit. Take another deep breath. Inhale and draw yourself back to center. Exhale once more, bend the elbows, open the heart, look up. Inhale, both arms reach up. Exhale, bend the elbows, hold opposite elbows, and reach the forearms up above the head. As you exhale, see if you can pull the shoulders down away from the ears and keep the position. I'm going to change just so you can see me from the side, but you can continue to orient in the way that you are. Inhale here. As you exhale, deep bend your knees, send your butt back. Take your rib cage down toward your thighs. And invite as much space as you need between the feet here. Don't be afraid to step the feet apart wider. Let the arms reach down toward the floor and release the heavy head into the space between the arms. Here it can feel really nice to move the head right and left and nod it up and down. And it's another way you can ensure that you've really let go. Rock weight back into the heels again and forward toward the toes, and once more find your center. Keep as much of a bend in the knees as feels necessary for you, and invite another 3 to 5 deep breaths. If it feels good already in the practice to straighten your legs, you can experiment with that as well. Keep surrendering the weight of the upper body down toward the floor, and continue your Ujjayi practice. Full deep breaths, drawn in and out through the nose. When you feel ready, invite some tiny figure 8 movement that it feels like is created by the tips of your elbows. So you isolate the movement in the shoulders really. Explore here and notice how the shoulders respond. Take some deeper breaths and notice if you feel more supported, making this a larger movement that maybe moves into the whole upper body. Of course, remember to keep the generous bend in your knees. Everything will feel so much better when you do. Or if you really want to get into those hamstrings, straight legs is okay too. And then let's release the hands down to the floor and lay the backs of the hands down, providing a little stretch for the wrists. Let the elbows bend, the shoulders soften, the head remain heavy. And take another deep breath here. Remember, anytime you feel anxiety building, that deep, audible exhale is your best friend. Just let go through the mouth as often as you need to. When you inhale, press the palms up toward the shins to flatten the back. Lengthen the neck by drawing the shoulders away from the ears and firm your belly so you're supported here. Exhaling again, bend the knees deeply. Draw the body down as slowly as the breath will allow. Release. Next, inhale inspires us to lift the heart halfway up, flattening the back. Ardha Uttanasana, half forward fold. Exhale and we soften and release. Once more, inhale. Use the full length of your inhale to lift the palms to the shins. Just under the knees is good. Shoulders roll back and crown of head extends forward away from tail. Exhaling, we bow, we soften, we continue to release. Hang down here, heavy like a rag doll. Keep softening. Take one more deep breath, as surrendered as you can be in this moment. And from here, let's lift the gaze. Walk the fingertips forward for support and heel-toe the feet a bit wider apart. I recommend heels in and toes out as we exhale to lower the tail down any amount that feels good in the beginning. And inhale into parallel feet. A little spin on the heels will make that possible in flat back. Exhale, toes out, heels in, knees go wide, providing lots of space to lower the tail down any amount, maybe a little deeper this second time. Inhale into flat back, parallel feet. And exhale, toes out, heels in, deep squat is the goal. So see how far you can get down here. Option to bring in a block or a blanket that's really compressed and rolled up to sit under the tail. Not everyone is able to access this deep a squat, and I understand that. Another option, if heels don't touch the floor, is take 2 rolled up washcloths and put them underneath your heels for support. Do your best to root down through the feet, and actually you'll be supported here as you bring your palms together at the heart. You'll press the elbows out into the knees, and at the same time, draw the knees in toward the elbows. You'll find this dual opposite action goes a long way towards supporting you in staying here. I'm going to reorient myself so you can see a little better. I have very widespread feet, heels in, toes out, letting the weight of the pelvis drop down toward the floor. Palms come together, elbows press out, and knees draw in. And if you keep this dual opposite action, you'll be surprised how supported you feel here. Take a few deep breaths in this posture. Malasana, garland pose. Another wonderful pose that supports us in realizing the truth of our connection to the earth. Let's take 3 to 5 deep breaths here. If you prefer a different arm variation, you might simply reach the fingertips forward to the floor. This can be helpful if you don't feel quite as stable or comfortable in your Malasana pose. is actually a really important pose. I think it's important that we as humans maintain our ability to squat. So no matter the depth of your malasana, it's a good pose to bring into your practice on a regular basis. Ready to release the pose, we'll bring the hands back behind us for support and simply lower the tail down to the floor, moving slowly and mindfully. You can extend both the legs out long in front of you. Take a deep breath here as you ground the tail, lengthen the legs, and flex the feet. Staff pose. Palms press down, heart lifts up. We find our breath as we hug the legs together. One more deep breath. Now when you're ready, take your hands under your thighs. Draw the knees up high and separate the feet out as wide as your mat. If you're facing the side edge of your mat like I am, just take the feet out a little bit wider than the hips. Now you'll bring the hands behind you for support. It's okay to sort of tent the palms down or tent the hands down where only the fingertips are pressing to the floor, or flatten the palms. But our goal here is to keep the heart high and focus the movement in the lower body as we exhale, 2 knees to the right side. Feel the hips. Allow the little twist that's happening at the midsection. And let that left hip be a bit lifted off the floor. That's okay, and that's part of this. Inhale, knees up again. Exhale, and take the knees over to the left. Inhale, knees up. Exhale to the right. Continue the movement, moving as slowly as your breath will allow. If you feel your butt scooting forward toward the heels, it's okay to make the adjustment to find the better alignment anytime. And a good time is when the knees are lifted, right? Just make that adjustment then. Okay, awesome. When you feel complete, release that and make your way toward the front of your mat for tabletop position. So there's a number of ways to get forward to hands and knees. Just take your time, allowing yourself a moment to transition. Let's arrange the shoulders over the wrists and the hips over the knees, focusing the energy and the work in the spine, cat-cow. Every inhale, the belly lowers, the heart and the tail and the gaze all reach up. As we exhale, we'll press the floor away through hands, knees, and tops of feet, rounding the upper back dramatically. Let the head be heavy again. Hang it down. Next, inhale, roll shoulders back. Feel a sense of spreading collarbones and dropping belly down as you lift your gaze up. Exhale, push the floor away, hug navel to spine here, and let head be heavy. A couple more, moving in your own time, at your own pace. Last one. Focused on the articulation of the spine here. And as you come back to a nice neutral tabletop position, I invite you to walk the knees over to one side of your mat so you can lower the hips down and swing the legs around in front of you. Now, as you're back here in staff pose, we'll make our way toward Gomukhasana, cow face pose, which is tricky for some bodies, so I do want to acknowledge that. Take a moment to bounce out the knees. And I'm going to offer a half version of the pose first, which most people will find more accessible. Let's invite the right knee to bend deeply, and you're always welcome to take hand to thigh and give that leg an assist in drawing up. You might also assist in pulling the heel back toward the tail, and then ground both sides of the tail down as you lift your heart. Take an inhale here, and as you exhale, bring the left foot across to the outside of the right thigh. Now, I know that this is a pose that a lot of us are used to, and you might be ready to come into a twist here, but that's not quite where we're going. So instead, I'm going to take the left hand to the top of the right foot, And by pointing the foot, I'm going to guide the top of the foot down onto the surface of the mat. This will help me draw the right knee in closer toward the midline and hopefully stack right knee over left. So see how that works out for you. And you might feel good about staying here, breathing into the right side of the hip. The goal is to let the weight of the leg bone bring us into an appropriate stretch. We're also going to add the arms. So it's important that you feel pretty good and comfortable in the lower body first. So this is option number 1. Many of us will stay here, keeping a flex in the left toes. If you're used to full-on Gomukhasana and you want to come into the full pose, I recommend planting the left palm down, or the right palm, really, whichever way you'd like to lean. I'm going to lean left so I can free the left leg to bend, and then hug that left heel in toward the right side of the tail. But not so much that it's keeping the left side or the right side of the tail off the floor. That part is still grounded. And now the two knees are able to stack. Option to bring hands to soles of feet. So if this feels comforting or helps you stay in the pose, and if it's a lot for the hips, you might not even want to add the arms, right? You could stay right here breathing deeply. If you feel good about things and you'd like to add the arms, take them up right in front of you at the height of the shoulders and inhale. As you exhale, cross the right arm over the left, just above the elbows, meaning closer to the chest, so the elbows can bend and the fingers can come into the palm of the right hand. Now there's a tendency to let the weight of the arms drop down onto the chest. Instead here, we're going to inhale and lift the elbows up to about the height of the shoulders. Let's keep a nice long spine and fluid deep breath as we pause, and not pause, but continue to stay and breathe. See if you can direct the breath into the space between the shoulder blades, right behind the heart. Let's take 2 or 3 more deep breaths. And if you're accustomed to forward folding in this pose, you're welcome to go there as well. Inhale to lift the gaze and the upper body up if you were folded. Exhale to unwind the arms. Inhale to lift them straight up into the air. As you exhale, you'll take a tiny, tiny twist that helps you bring both of the fingertips, all of the fingertips, over to the left side of your body. Now draw up the right knee and place the foot flat to the floor. Lean over onto your hands so you can lift your tail without moving the feet at all. We're just turning on the feet. We haven't moved them, but we're going to continue to turn until the two legs are crossed and we're back in the center of the mat. So it looks very awkward. I have a foot on each end of the mat, legs crossed at the knees. Now I'm able to lower the right knee down, and this works well if your plan was full Gomukhasana and you're coming back in on the other side. Lower the tail. Let the left knee be stacked on top of the right, and once you land down here, you'll surely have to make a few adjustments. If you worked with the straight leg version of this, the half variation, you might lean over, extend that right leg out, or just come back to the staff pose to access the same entryway that we had before. Left knee bending, left foot moving outside right thigh, holding the top of the foot, guiding it back by the hip, lay the top of the foot flat to the floor, cross the left knee over the right? So I did the full version. I'm going to come back into that on this side. And it's really helpful to be willing to honor the difference in the two sides of the body. So if you did full Gomukhasana on the other side, but you come in now and it doesn't feel good, don't feel any kind of way about keeping a leg extended and steady. It's actually very intelligent. Let's bring the arms up with the inhale. And And as we exhale, we'll take the left arm over the right. Bend at the elbows. Take the fingers into the palm of the hand. Now forgive me for not offering earlier another variation where you hold the outer shoulder heads, wrap the hands around like you're hugging yourself. And here you'd still lift the elbows just a bit off the chest. You're still able to find that spread of shoulder blades here and send breath into the space behind the heart. Let's take about 8 deep breaths in Gomukhasana, focused on releasing tension in the lower body and allowing the weight of the leg bones to bring us into an appropriate stretch. How you doing out there? Now the key to reducing anxiety with yoga is deep breaths. Totes Abhi, right? The longer and deeper the breath, the more calming effect it has on the nervous system. And if this pose gives you anxiety, feel free to release it, especially the lower body, which can be a lot harder to access than the arms. Just cross the legs and be in the pose, right? You're always welcome to modify and make the pose or the practice what it needs to be for you. Let's take one more deep breath. You're hearing my radiators come on, Haji. They usually wait until Shavasana to come on, so it's kind of funny that they're starting now. Releasing with the exhale, inhaling the arms up, exhale, and bring the hands down. So if you're still in Gomukhasana, just unwind yourself. Release both the legs, stretch them out long, and hug the inner thighs together as you plant your palms flat to the mat. Lift your heart and lengthen the crown of your head toward the ceiling. Take another deep breath in staff pose. Good. From here, let's bend both the knees again and pop up back toward our squat, but we're not staying here this time. We'll lower the palms flat to the floor and draw the knees down to come into tabletop position once more. From here, we'll work toward pigeon. So this is where a blanket could be really helpful. I have one of our Haji blankets here, and of course there are many different levels of thickness that folding the blanket in different ways can provide you with, right? So if you don't have a blanket like this at home, a towel works really well, a big bath towel, right? So from the tabletop position, we'll ground down shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. And here it feels like I need a little bit of a sway right and left for the hips. And I think some circling is probably gonna feel really good here at this point in the practice. So find some circles that move those thigh bones around in the hip sockets, one direction and then the other. And your circles can be as small or as large as you like. So we're moving toward pigeon pose. As you find your spine neutral again, ground down through the left knee and begin to draw the right knee forward toward the right wrist. So you're in this kind of lazy lunge, right? Then take the right foot, you keep the right knee grounded, but swing the right foot forward in front of the left knee. So now the shin bone is at an angle, and turn the back toes under. Lift the left knee and use the toes that are turned under to help you lengthen and extend the left leg. It keeps walking back, and as that leg walks back, the hips lower toward the floor. Now, if your anatomy is such that when you're in this shape, there's a lot of space between your tail and the floor, this is where you bring the towel or the blanket in. You can fold it up so it's pretty thick, take it and place it right under the right side tail. And then you can allow some of the weight, about 50% of the weight, to go down into the blanket. You do want to make sure that your weight is even and balanced here, that you're not all dropped over to the right side or to the left, but that you're pretty centered. Option to take the fingers out wide. Now some of us will feel really good about staying here. You'll be getting enough of a stretch in the front of the left hip. If you invite an up dog kind of action in the upper body, fingertips can stay down. Now I don't really need the blanket, so I'm going to move it back off to the side and lower down. Another option here is to bring the fingers out about as wide as the mat. And as you exhale, bend the elbows to drape the body down in the space between the arms. You'll find a wave-like motion in the spine, moving as slowly as the breath will allow. The inhale peels you back up, and the exhale helps you lower down toward the floor. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Now from this action, you'll be able to tell how you feel when your upper body is pretty low. So if it feels intelligent for you when you're down low, to stay there, you might bring forearms to the floor and press the palms together like a prayer. Work to keep the elbows and the shoulders pulled down and the heart lifted up. Breathe deeply. This is one of your options for holding and staying in your pigeon pose. If you feel like you could go further and it's intelligent for your body, you might lower down and extend the arms forward, allowing the chest to move toward the floor, the forehead to rest down. You might find full and complete surrender here, and it could feel like everything. If that's not true for you, but you're somewhere in the middle, maybe the forearms stay on the floor, but you stack the two fists and rest the forehead on them. Avoid clenching the glutes or tightening them at all. Let the glutes be soft. This is another pose where we invite surrender. Take 2 or 3 more deep breaths in the shape. And when you feel ready, slowly begin to walk the body up again. You might come to forearms on the way out of the pose before walking the hands back toward the knee and pressing down to lift up. Let your inhale lift you and your exhale help you remember to turn the back toes under and use them to draw that left knee forward again. We'll make ourselves somewhat compact before drawing that right foot back behind the right knee and coming to parallel knees. Gently, again, swaying the hips right and left, or circling them. Or maybe you'd even like to turn the toes under and lift up and back into down dog briefly. Invite a full deep inhale. Open mouth exhale. Take another deep breath. And when you're ready, if you're in down dog, you'll return to the knees. If you were already on the hands and knees, you'll just check your alignment and prepare to send your left knee forward behind your left wrist. You might even have to walk the right knee back a bit to make space to draw the left foot forward in front of the right knee. Then we'll turn the back toes under again and use them to help walk that knee back. Now we're on the other side, and our first task is to make sure that the weight is evenly distributed between the two legs. That one leg isn't holding more weight than the other, and we certainly want to ensure that we haven't dropped all the weight over into the left side hip, right? Instead, make sure that all 5 of your right toes are flat on the floor, and do your best to square your body forward in this shape. Invite an inhale, and notice how things feel on this side, and don't be afraid to bring your towel or your blanket in for support on the other side as well. It can make all the difference because we're never practicing yoga in an effort to create suffering. We actually want to lessen suffering with our yoga practice. Let's remember that we're here to hopefully quell anxiety. So be sure that you're willing to support yourself every step of the way. Inhale for this nice lifted heart. And maybe you're staying in the variation where the fingertips are on the floor and this feels glorious and magnificent to you. Or you might be widening the hands apart to give yourself space to lower down as you exhale and roll up as you inhale. And after 3 or 4, you might be ready to come down and settle a little lower in the pose with the palms together. Forearms can be on the floor. So many options, right? Elbows wide, stacked fists, resting forehead. Maybe you have the space and it feels intelligent for your body to extend your arms long and drape your body down over the front leg. Keep reaching the right toes back. Keep centering your weight. Keep softening the areas that you don't need to be in action right now. Maybe the elbows come down and you take prayer hands resting behind the head. You have so many options. Go where you feel most nourished, most supported. Go to the place that has the most value for you. Important pose to really stay connected to your breath. Primarily because we do a lot of holding and storing of tension and stress and trauma in the hips. So when we endeavor to enter these hip opening poses, there can be a lot of fluctuations in the mind. We can start to have memories. We can see certain images. We might suddenly feel ourselves overwhelmed by emotion. So if any of that is true, the most intelligent response is a deeper breath. We observe without getting carried away when it arises. Make sense? Let's invite 2 or 3 more deep breaths here. And then when you're ready, walk your hands back towards your knee. Press down to lift up. Draw back toes under and use them to walk the knee forward again. Take your time, making yourself a little more compact. Slowly drag that left foot back behind the knee. Drag the left knee back in line with the right. And notice how you feel. Take a deeper breath. And notice how you feel. Let's turn the toes under and lift the tail up and back into a down dog. So we won't be here very long, but if you enjoy down dog and you'd like to walk it out a little bit, it's an intelligent place to put it here after a pigeon pose. And then let's lower the knees. Lift the heart with the inhale. Exhale, put the tops of the feet on the floor. Touch the 2 toes together and widen the knees apart. And then as you round the upper back, send the tail back onto the heels. Or in that direction anyway, and feel the beautiful stretching of the back body as you release the head down toward the floor. See if every exhale will help you draw the upper body down a little closer to the floor. Let the belly rest in the space between the thighs and feel your breath enlivening your body as the inhale expands you out in all 4 directions. And the exhale helps you surrender a little more into the shape. Now I invite you to send breath into the sacrum, the triangular bone at the very bottom of the spine. Send breath there. Now when you're ready, slowly walk the hands back. Gently lift yourself up off the heels, back into that tabletop position. And let's take the knees again off to one side. Draw the legs together and come down onto the hip. So this is simply so you can swing the legs around in front of you. And at this point, we'll take the soles of the feet together. Bound ankle pose. So with the soles of the feet together, we'll hold the ankles and do our best to soften and release the outer legs down toward the floor. Holding the ankles will help us get a longer spine. See if this feels like a good stretch for you. You're also welcome to hold the soles of the feet, but we really won't be in this upright position long because we're coming into a reclining variation of bound ankle pose now. So, find the shape that feels good and right for you. You might like a more broad diamond shape rather than a tight one. You're also welcome to, again, bring your towel, maybe you have two, and place them right underneath your knees or your upper thighs, so that if the stretch, when you come onto your back, starts to feel like a lot because you don't have support under the knees, you'll just give yourself that support, and in this way you're able to moderate how much stretch comes into the inner leg line and the groin, right? Makes sense? So if you don't have two towels, grab another one and place one under each of your legs. Let's work our way back by coming down onto the forearms and then releasing the body down onto the floor. A couple options for the arms. One is to keep one hand at the heart and one hand at the belly. Softening through the inner legs and allowing, again, the weight of the legs to draw us into the most appropriate stretch. We don't have to force the legs down toward the floor. In fact, it's just the opposite. We soften and we allow. Another option for the arms is to goal post the arms, letting the elbows be at the height of the shoulders, lay the backs of the hands onto the floor with this broad open heart. A third option is to clasp opposite elbows, as we did in the very beginning of the practice. And I only recommend this if you're able to release the forearms down to the floor overhead. If there's challenge or struggle in the shoulders, if the forearms are lifted in this way and not able to touch down to the floor, it won't feel restorative, so just let it go. In this case, you'd come back to goalpost arms or let the hands rest on the body for more support. Yoga gives us a beautiful opportunity to practice honoring the truth of the body with every single posture. So commit to doing that in your practice and know that you'll always win. Stay here in reclining bound ankle pose. Allow the floor and your props to hold you, and use the next few deep breaths to soften further. Now, if you're here, if you happen to be on your mat or in this practice and you don't have any props nearby, no blankets, no blocks, you still have hands. So you can make fists with your hands, bring them down at your sides, and slide one fist each in under the thighs. And in this way, you can provide yourself with support. Whatever you've chosen, remain and invite a few more deep breaths. Let's take 2 or 3 more deep breaths in this shape before we release. If you find yourself in need of a clearing, this is a great time to take a big breath in through the nose and release through the mouth. When you're ready, bring your hands down to your outer thighs. Use the hands to support the legs in coming together. Very gently walk the feet back toward the tail. Lift the tail, give it a scoop under, and come into a flat back against the floor. Slowly draw the knees into the chest. Hold the shins with the hands and rock gently right and left if that feels good. Another option here as we transition to our final pose is to maybe circle the knees around in one direction and then the other. Or it might feel really good to keep the tail grounded here. Bring the arms on the floor and flex the feet as you reach them up toward the ceiling. Let the shoulder blades be flat on the floor. Rest the back of the head down. Feel the weight of the tail and the connection you still have with the earth, but press your feet skyward. Invite a deep breath in and clear it out through the mouth. And draw the knees into the chest. Place the feet flat to the floor. Now, for this part of the practice, I invite you to move close to the wall. You can see I have my mat pretty close to the wall already, so I don't have a lot of adjustment to make. But we'll take our final pose, and it's legs up the wall. So here, a lot of people are sort of stumped when it's time to bring the legs up the wall. And I see a lot of different attempts. But I'd like to show you a really easy way to get those legs up there. So I invite you to scoot all the way to the wall at your side so that your hip is right against the wall here, right? And then you'll simply lie down on your side in a kind of fetal position. And when you come onto the side, now the tail is really pressed up against the wall. And then you'll come down onto one shoulder and roll over onto your back, and you'll feel your tail pressed up against the baseboards. From here, you can squeeze the legs together, flex the feet. If you're someone who happens to have a sandbag at home, it's the most amazing thing when there's a sandbag over the soles of your feet. We'll have those at Haji pretty soon. And be here, again with one-handed heart, one-handed belly, with wide open arms, or maybe even with the arms reaching overhead. What feels good and supported for you? Stay. And actually now we'll soften that flex of feet so that we're putting in less effort. Let toes be soft, let tail be heavy, let legs rest against the support of the wall. Invite 10 deep breaths here. If you're here and you have any instinct to open the legs wide, why not? Go to the place that feels most valuable to you. And allow yourself to be guided by your own inner wisdom. Invite a few more deep breaths. And when you're ready, bend your knees, place them flat to the wall, place the feet flat to the wall, and then again, roll over into that fetal position. Use a palm pressed down to the floor to help you slowly rise up. Let your head be the last thing that lifts, and crawl your way back to the center of your mat. Let's come into a simple cross-leg position. Let's ground the tail, lift the heart, lengthen the spine. Let's bring the palms together at the heart and pause for a moment to notice again the truth of the body. We honor and acknowledge the truth of the body by witnessing. We observe any sensations we might be present to in this moment. Take a deeper breath. Notice how you feel. Now we'll tune in to the energetic space of the heart by noticing any emotions we might be present to. My prayer is that any anxiety you may have entered the practice with has dissolved. Take a deeper breath. Notice how you feel. Finally, we'll bring awareness to the state of the mind. My prayer is that the mind feels calm and clear. We notice the state of the mind by tuning in to any dominant thoughts. Take a deeper breath. Notice how you feel. Let's recall the intentions we began the practice with and give thanks for the inspiration they provided. Let's create an internal vow to the ancestors and end our time and our practice by uniting our voices in the sound of Om. After a deep breath in, we chant. May each of us be happy, healthy, and free from harm today and all the days. Thank you for a beautiful practice. Ashe, Namaste. Thank you, good people. I pray we're back to healing together in the salon very soon. Until then, be well.